beard. There's nothing like a man with a good-looking beard.
Hello and welcome to another iteration of Behind the Beard WNC. My name's Patrick Pohl. I'm joined as always by Lewis and Mike Anderson. And this is a podcast where basically three friends get together and we talk about a lot of subjects that kind of interest us. A lot of times it's high school sports because we all have kids at the various schools around the Asheville area, so that's often a common topic, but anything's on the table. We've talked college sports, we've talked racing a little bit. I think Mike brought that up a couple times.
Right before you deleted it.
Yeah, that's true. I did delete it because we had an issue. I'm sorry, Mike. We can revisit that for you. But anyway, the idea of this is for our entertainment. You'll hear us make banter and make fun of each other all the time, and then occasionally we'll have some guests and bring those folks in. The goal is our entertainment. We hope you're entertained along with us. And, yeah, well, it's been, a couple of weeks since we got together, hadn't it, in general?
Indeed.
Agony.
Agony is right. Agony for you, Mike. So last time, since we were last together, Lewis, what did you get into? What have you been up to?
Just umpiring every night. I spent this weekend down in Morganton in the USSSA tournament. Just working.
Yeah, you were sharing how much umpiring you're doing and how that all worked. That was pretty fascinating the other night.
Yeah, it's a lucrative business to get into.
Yeah.
It's caused him to lose all his hair.
Yeah, absolutely. It just fell low.
And you didn't have to wrestle any coaches or parents to the ground or anything?
I did have to send one parent or one coach to the parking lot this weekend.
Did you really?
But after that, everything was good.
Wow. That's awesome.
I've only ever had to send one coach to the parking lot, and I was with Lewis.
That is true.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did you do this weekend, Mike?
So no racing this weekend. My son actually went to the camp at NC State this week, so we spent Saturday in Raleigh. Got home pretty early Sunday morning. But it was good. It was good.
Did you eat anywhere good down there?
We went to this place across from Carter Finley. Really good place. It's like a sports bar, had all the TVs and all the stuff. It wasn't real busy because there's nothing going on at the PNC Arena. But it was good food. They had these barbecue egg rolls with collard greens, and I mean, I couldn't eat but just a bite, just a tiny bite.
Right.
But everybody else said they were good. Yeah.
Well, the Pohl clan started the next chapter in the football recruiting journey. We
who are you trying to get to come to Reynolds?
Not that recruiting journey.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Now, Brendan's shift, and not just him, but I guess all the 24s have shifted kind of away from the visits at the high school, because obviously the high school is coming to a close for the semester, and they're moving into the camp season. So we went to the Western Carolina University football camp last night, and we unfortunately had 2 lightning delays, so we didn't get out of there until after 11 p.m. last night. But it was a pretty neat experience. I mean, great facilities, great coaches, and they went through the stuff and got to kind of watch how that all works.
So are you guys going to make a T-shirt this year? I'm a 24 parent or something like that?
I don't know. Is that what we do?
Maybe. You guys have been referring to the 24s all off season.
The 24s. It sounds like some wheels you put on your car.
I'd probably pick that term up from the people that are more experienced than I am at this. It's not like I have any
We know
experience.
that you didn't come up with that. Trust us.
Yes. Okay.
We know Pat has a D1 student already that he never mentions.
That's true. My daughter,
right.
Charlie Pohl, is a D1
hold
student.
on a minute. You have a daughter?
I do.
You've never mentioned her.
Yeah.
That's weird.
She's at the University of Kentucky, and she's an amazing kiddo and student.
We see who your favorite is now.
Definitely.
Agony. Now you really cultivated a firestorm.
You're welcome.
Mike,
Anytime.
You got a guest today. Share who we got today.
I do. So we got to thank Coach Walker and Coach Laws for coming on our last 2 episodes. Today, we're fortunate enough to have a 2007 Reynolds grad, 2019 Coach of the Year in the Southwest 2A Conference, and current Asheville High football coach, Cort Radford. Coach, welcome.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
We're glad you let us come in your office here. Pat, as you guys will be surprised, was late.
Yes, I can't see right now because I've had eye procedures, and I bulleted through the traffic of Asheville with sunglasses on and navigated the perils to get to Asheville High School.
Probably not the best thing to admit on air.
Probably not, but it was an experience, and I'm glad to be here.
So, Coach Radford, tell us a little about yourself. How'd you get to Asheville High? Where'd you come from? What you got going on?
So I got to Asheville High about a week before COVID started. So very prime time to take over a job. before there, I was at Chase High School in Rutherford County. Got very lucky there with a really good group of kids, had great staff, and we had a lot of success there in 2 years, and it's success that they've continued to have. And my group that one of my 8th grade groups that I brought in, as freshmen, they're graduating now, so it's pretty neat to see where they're all going, and we still keep in contact, and with coaches down there, kids down there. That was a great experience for me and my family. Before then, I was defense coordinator at Crest, down in Shelby, and so this whole time we were always living up here. So when the Asheville job came open, my wife said, you got to come up here, versus me driving.
So you were commuting to Chase? I
was commuting to Chase. We lived in Hendersonville, so it was about a 45-minute drive. Now, before I was at Crest, I was at Irwin, and we actually bought a house, and we since sold it, but bought a house out in Leicester. So when I took the Crest job, I was commuting from Leicester to Crest. It was about an hour and a half one way, but I thought it was important to what I want to do in my career, and thankfully I got a very good wife who understood that as well, because we also had a newborn girl at that time. So that was I'd get home about time for one of her midnight wake ups. That was a tough time, just a lot of driving, but I've learned a lot throughout that whole journey. And I think it's helped me bring me to where I'm at now.
So Crest is a pretty good football power. What was it like coaching there versus some of these other schools you've been at?
Well, when I got there, they were 32-0. They had won back-to-back state championships, 16-0, 16-0. And then I come in as the defense coordinator, and we lose the first game to South Point. So as you can imagine, people were not very happy with me off the jump. But it was a great experience down there. The Cleveland County football is a little different. If you're an able-bodied male down there in Cleveland County growing up, you're expected to play football. You just are. So you have huge numbers out there, in your program. They have 2 different football weight training classes just because of numbers. So football, obviously a very big deal down there. Friday nights, even Thursday nights. The Crest-Shelby rivalry, very fun to be a part of. But like I said, it was a good experience, and learned a lot from Coach Barnes, who was there before I got there, but he's the one that kind of had to install that defense that we brought up here to Asheville. And that our defense coordinator, Cody Cheek, has morphed and turned into his own thing. But it all kind of goes back to Mark Barnes and what he had done at Crest.
That's interesting. So tell us. We're sitting in your new office here. We looked at your new weight room. Tell us what's kind of going on here at Asheville High.
We're trying to make progress, just like everybody else. I think we have a very special school system. I really do. And we're landlocked. We're right here in the middle of the city. It's beautiful, man. When you pull up on this campus, there's not many campuses you pull up on, and it looks like this. Every college coach that comes by and people that come visit the school, they pull in it looks like a movie high school. It's like the schools that you see and you're like, that's not a real high school. But it's beautiful. But we have one football field, or one field, soccer field hockey field, on campus, and then we got one baseball field. And so we have to be very creative in how we use our time. Because we got a lot of different sports. We got a lot of different people needing to use those facilities. So can't say enough about how important this new weight room is for us in our programs, not just for football, but for all of athletics. I mean, it's we went from a space where we had 6 racks to a bunch of brand new equipment and having 10 racks. And we've already seen the benefits of that.
It's beautiful here. You're right. This whole school is a beautiful high school, and this new section, very nice.
It is gorgeous. I don't know if I shared this earlier, but my daughter Charlie graduated from Silsa, which is the charter school in the basement here. And every time we came over here, and she was part of the dance team for Asheville. You're right. It is like out of a movie. It's almost looks like an old college campus. It's gorgeous.
Oh, that's what everyone has. Like, is this a small college? And that's what's interesting when we play some non-conference opponents from off the mountain, and they have to come up here, because they're a little awestruck when you get up here, because it's not your typical high school, and you go into the stadium, and it's a huge stadium.
It is.
And so, you hope that can kind of help you a little bit, at least in the first quarter. And so, it's a very special place to be.
So tell us, you mentioned Coach Cheek. Tell us a little bit about your staff, who you got coaching with you.
So on the defensive side, we got, Coach Cheek was our defense coordinator, and me and Coach Cheek go back to our Irwin days, and we talked about baseball a bit earlier. He actually helped me coach Asheville Legion post 70, and then we stayed in contact when I went off the mountain for a while, and he stayed up here. And then when I got the Asheville job, he was the first person I called, and said, I need you to come with me, and thankfully we were able to make that work out. And he's been here with me for 3 years, and our defense has been very successful over the last 3 years, and a big part of that's because of him. The defensive coaches that he works with, we got Jake Cardillo, who's been here with us for 3 years, coaches DBs. He was with Chris Metzger at Pinecrest before then. And on the offense side of the ball, Daryl Clark came over here last year, coached our quarterbacks, calls the offense. I knew him back from Irwin, and I'm a run it guy, and I think we have a very talented young group of skill players, and so we're going to try to throw it a little more. So I needed to hire somebody who's a lot smarter than me that knew how to throw it. Besides, just hand it off to the running back. So Daryl Clark came over. He's coaching quarterbacks. You got the legendary Gene Hammonds, running back still, who, if you guys want to get in a fight with him, be my guest. But he's he's been around for a while, but he goes out there every day doing running back drills, and he's got it, man. He's such a pleasure to be around. Honestly, he helps keep everything in perspective. And when you need a good laugh, he'll give you one. He's great. Chavis Williams is very interesting. It was actually the first time I was able to hire a kid that I coached. And I guess he's not a kid anymore; he's a grown man, but able to hire a kid that I coached, and he was a great player. He was a great kid. He graduated from Tusculum, went and played out in Tusculum. Graduated, and I told him I needed a wide receiver coach. I've been with Slade Singleton for a while. He helped me down at Chase kind of get this thing started. And he lives up here, so he's with us too. And then Bill Silver and Craig Lovin on the offensive line. Justin Blizzy at tight end. I got coaches everywhere. Landon Brown, who some of you guys saw, he was assistant linebackers coach at Western Carolina last year, and we actually just lost our linebackers coach, the first guy, that we've lost. Well, I guess technically second guy that we've lost since we've been here, but he's going to Houston, Texas. He's going to be a defense coordinator out there. And honestly, when he talked to me about it, I wanted him to talk him out of it. But there was no way I could without being selfish, because it's an unbelievable opportunity for him. He's young. He's very, very smart. He's been unbelievable for us, and I know he's going to go out there and do really, really well. It's a big life change for him. He's been very good for our kids. But he's going to go out there and do a good job.
It'd be interesting to talk to him after a year and see the big differences between Texas football and North Carolina football.
Yeah, Texas football is a little different.
Right.
Yeah, Texas football is a little different. So, yeah, I'm interested in it. He joked. I think he was joking. He may have been serious about trying to get a home and home. I said, if you fly us down there, we'll go. But
that's some travel right there. So when you got here, Coach, they Asheville 2019 was 4-7 overall, 3-5 in the conference. You took over 5-3 and 4-2 that first year, first round of playoffs. You scared the crap out of Reynolds, losing 13-12. The second year, you beat Reynolds 5-3. Is that the right score? 5-3?
6-5.
6-5. Went 9-3, 6-0 in the conference. You broke Reynolds' long winning streak in the conference. So how'd you do that so quickly?
Have really good players. That's one thing Bucky Tarr taught me when I was at Irwin. I don't know if you guys know who Bucky Tarr is or not, but he's a legendary coach in this area. And one thing he told me early on is you'll find out you're a much better coach when you have much better players. Asheville always has a long history of having really good kids. Now, that first year was difficult. We had COVID and everything that accompanied it.
Sure.
But we had a really good group of seniors. And the one thing it allowed us to do, because a lot of times when you come in and you take a job, sometimes you get, late in the spring, you get summer with them, and then you get the season, then they're gone. After the season, then it's on to the next group. And so you don't really get a great chance to know those seniors. The one thing that COVID did allow us to do is we didn't play until the spring, so it allowed us to, build a little bit better relationships with those seniors. We had some really good ones with, Tomlin McDonough, who's playing up at Yale, Vasily Polk, who came by the other day. He joined the military. We went and played at UVA for a little bit and joined the military. And we just had Liam Boyd, who before COVID started, Actually, I think it was right when COVID started. He said, "Coach, I think I kind of want to kick. Do you mind if I borrow a few footballs and kick while they send us home?" Because we didn't know how long we were going to be home for. I was like, "Sure." I mean, I've never had a really good kicker. Yeah, if you want to go kick some balls, that's fine. And then he came back in the spring, and I was like, "Oh, wow, like you're really good at this thing." And he was at Clemson, and now he entered the transfer portal, and he's going to be kicking at Carolina next year, and he's going to kick on Sundays. He's special. You don't hear it a lot, but the ones that are different, when it comes off their foot, it makes a different sound. Yeah,
I think during pregame we seen him kick like a 65-yard field goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came back, and the cool thing about Liam, when he was down at Clemson, he's not very far away, and he came back a lot. I hope he still comes back a lot with being in Chapel Hill. It's good for the kids to see him. He works with our kicker some when he comes back, and then it's good for me and him to talk. Cause in the off season, so where do you feel comfortable from? If I say go on the field right now, kick a field goal, where do you feel comfortable from? He said 65. I said, no, Liam, like, not like how far can you kick it? Like, where do you feel comfortable from? He said, no, 65. I feel good. And then you watch some of the videos and do some stuff, and you're like, yeah, I can see it now. And I think he hit a 51-yarder in the spring game. That would have probably been good from 65. So the kid's a special kid, but that whole time allowed us, to get closer with that group. We were actually picked to finish 7th in the conference that year. And we come in, we lose a tough one to a very good Robertson team early, where I think we tied the state record at the time in turnovers in a game. I think we had seven turnovers.
It's hard to win with 7 turnovers.
Yeah, if you can find a way to win with 7 turnovers, then you really did something. So we lose a close one there, and then the Reynolds game was a great football game. They do a great job over there, and they had won a lot of games in a row, and our kids were fired up for that one, just like they always will be for Asheville Reynolds. It's a different rivalry. It's Crest Shelby, it is. And so we lost a tough one there, and then had to play Weddington, the Mountain Killers in the first round. And so that was a good first year, and I think it led us into what we were able to achieve that second year with being able to win conference, win the first round home playoff game, and then Mallard Creek. Who's Mallard Creek?
Jeez.
And we lose 13-12 on a punt return. So and our quarterback gets knocked out. While we're up 12-0, and so.
Then you also lose a linebacker.
Yeah. So Otis Walton Thatch, and we could spend the next 6 hours talking about Otis Walton Thatch. He's one of my favorite kids I've ever had. He worked his tail off during that whole COVID time. He was a junior linebacker. He worked as hard as any kid I've ever met. The first play against TC Robertson, he tears his ACL. And so we're playing in the spring. We're about to play again in the fall. And my thinking is ACL is 9 months. And so I remember after that game, me and Coach Cheek stayed with him on the bus, and we had the real conversation with him as far as you need to be ready that your football career is over. You're more than just a football player. But you need to be willing to accept that. Because we're late February and we're going to play again in August. The kid has surgery, and he plays in a game 5 months post-surgery.
Wow.
And then, all conference player for us, stud. Not a lot of kids like playing offensive line. I know your son's an offensive lineman, and I love coaching offensive linemen. They're the best humans on planet Earth, in my opinion, because there's nothing about them. They don't have any success. We made up pancakes as a stat for them. They don't have no stats. It's all about helping other people succeed.
Right.
So Otis, when he came back, we needed some help at left tackle. And Otis jumped right in there and played left tackle and middle linebacker 5 months post ACL surgery. And the doctor tells me, like, listen, he's testing off the charts. The only thing that he's not cleared for is time. I can't clear a kid 5 months post surgery. But they were able to make that happen. And I held my breath every time he went down early on. And then in the Mallard Creek game, freak non-contact. He's getting after the quarterback. Kind of twists the wrong way, tears the other ACL.
Oh, I didn't realize it was the other ACL.
No, he tore the other one. And so then, try to have the same conversation with him of like, hey, Otis, go be a doctor. You're a smart kid. You're a heck of a football player. And he's like, Coach, I'm not done yet. And so he ends up going and playing last year at Presbyterian. I, took a chance on a kid with 2 torn ACLs, because of the kind of kid he is. And he played for him. And then, some more injuries happened to him. I was like, hey, notice maybe God's saying, stop playing. So he's since transferred to UNC Charlotte. But, we talked maybe a week ago on the phone for about 30, 45 minutes. And I actually have his little brother coming up here next year. So, I told you I could talk 6 hours about Otis, so you guys got me on the rant. But it was a good kid for this program. And when the kid, we started a leadership class this offseason because one thing, it's not just me, it's all coaches, and it's across every sport. They get frustrated with bad leadership, and myself included. But we never ask the kids to do anything on the football field that we don't teach them how to do. But we ask them to be leaders, and we hope that they see examples, of how to lead and then follow through with it. But this year we had a group of about 15 to 18 kids that we selected, and they came in every Wednesday morning at 6:30, 7 o'clock, and we read through a book together called The Hard Hat, and went through leadership. And the guy that they used as an example of who can I be like is Otis, and so that's this group's goal for when they graduate, and that's how you leave a legacy. Is that freshman looking at you saying, I want to be like. I want to be like Kaheem Plummer. I want to be like Zyreek Smith. I want to be like one of those guys. How can I be like that? So I'm curious to see. Hopefully, the leadership, council and class pays off. We did that for about 12 weeks. And it was a big commitment for those kids to get up and get here to school and read a book. Not all the kids read books. And, I can't sit here and say that I read a lot of books when I was 16 years old, but I think it was a good thing for us to do, and hopefully it'll pay off.
I think you'll definitely see the rewards of that. That's pretty impressive, a leadership class. I'll be interested to see what kind of results you do see. So what's it like being on the other side of the rivalry? Obviously, you were at Reynolds, you played at Reynolds. Now you're at Asheville. What's that like?
It's when I took the job, and I talked to
Did you get some grief when you took the job from
not
Reynolds
a lot, not a whole lot. No, I didn't. And my family, my dad was president of Bush Club. The concession stand is named after my grandfather. At Reynolds, he worked there. Charles Radford. He worked there for a very long time. And that kind of goes to the kind of man he was as far as being a perfect example of servant leadership, honestly. But being on the other side of it, and I remember hearing my daughter Anna, who's 7 now, who was probably 4, 3 or 4 when I took the job, but she did the Cougars chant, and I was like, oh man, I used to hate that.
That's like fingernails on a chalkboard.
But now I'm like, yes, let's hear some more of that now. But so it's very interesting to be on both sides of it, But this is a great place. It's a very special place. It's different than what probably a lot of people think it is, but it's a very, very special place with a lot of great kids and a lot of great people.
So your non-conference schedule this year, it's pretty tough.
It's not easy.
Not easy. So you got Tuscola, who last year went 10-2. Providence Day, who went 12-1. They probably have 2 of the top 10 kids in the state. Dobbins Bennett, a 6A team out of Kingsport, who went 8-3, and Lake Norman, who went 7-4. So you're really up in that non-conference schedule. What's your thinking there?
Well, the big thing we're trying to do in this program is take the next step. We feel like we've climbed out of the hole. There was a little, period of mediocrity, and one thing that we've tried to fight for is trying to get our name back at the top, not be picked to, finish 7th in conference, and hopefully we've moved ourselves out of that hole. But now it's how we get over the hump. How do we, we've lost 2 heartbreaker playoff games in a row. We lose 13-12 to Mount Creek, and then we lose off a field goal that hits the upright and banks in against Mount Tabor last year. And you don't see a lot of field goals hit the upright and bank in. When it hit the upright, I was like, oh, man, we won. And then it banked through there. So the big thing we've talked about this offseason is how do we get over the hump? How do we take that next step to then make the deep playoff run, win a state championship, which is our goal. As a team, as a community, that's our goal. And so one thing, that we want to try to do here is we want to find out who we are early. We want to find out our strengths. We want to find out our weaknesses. We want to learn about ourselves early, and I think we will definitely know where we're at after the non-conference schedule. And, Tuscola, they return a lot of people, and they got a brand new coach that's got the best name you can probably have in Waynesville.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so what's the conversation like last year? You're leading up to that last drive, playoff time. They go down and win.
Well,
what's the conversation like after the game there?
It's so unique because you tell kids all the time they don't know the feeling until they experience it because they only experience it once. Me as a coach, I get to experience it every year, and I can try to tell them what it feels like, And I can try to explain, hey, this is why Tuesday practice week 7 is important, because of that feeling, and just there's nothing that you can do to simulate what it's going to feel like until it happens, and that's always a tough part. And you hope that the young kids can learn from it and, say, I don't want to feel that. And in reality, everyone's going to feel that except for one, team in 4A this next year.
Right.
But it's just, that was a tough one, because when you looked at their sideline, they've ended up having 2 kids offered by Florida State here in the last week. They had some dudes now, and they had their offensive line averaged 308. And we had a 170-pound defensive end. He wrestled 170, and I was like, "Oh God, we played with a 170-pound defensive end." And he was a nightmare to block. He ruined practice for me day after day. We couldn't block him ever. And he had a great game. But to watch our kids compete against, because they were very talented. That Mount Tabor team's good. They're going to be really good again this year with those kids, coming back. But I thought we did enough to put ourselves in position to win. And thought our kids played hard, and it's one of those, you almost want a rule change. They were out of timeouts. There's about 25 seconds left. They're on the 50. We sacked the quarterback. And at that point, most of their receivers are about the 10, 15-yard line, and the clock's running. And the running back was hurt because their kid, Kaheem Plummer, who was a sophomore at the time to be a junior this year, ran through the running back's chest and sacked the quarterback. And the kid was legitimately hurt. It wasn't one of those, like, I'm just going to pretend to be hurt. No, the kid was hurt. But what it allowed them to do was a 1.5-minute break. Everyone got back to the line, got set.
Caught their breath.
Yeah. And they had a little 15-yard out, killed the clock, and they get a chance at a 46-yard field goal there at the end, where if that kid doesn't get hurt, I don't even know if they can get back to the line to run another play. And if they do, it's just a chunk it up type situation. But that's football, and that's how stuff happens, and that's life. It ain't always going to go the way you want it to go, So that was a tough one. That was a tough pill to swallow, similar to the Mallard Creek situation. That was a tough one, losing on the punt return when I thought we played well enough to win that game. But that goes back to this non-conference question as far as why we're doing it. To go ahead and play in that second round, third round game, in week 1, 2, 3, and 4 before we do it.
So what do you think outlook for conferences this year?
That was sort of my question too. The MAC has not been very good for a long time. Reynolds, Asheville have been good. The other teams seem to struggle. Does that hamstring you? Do you see the MAC being better? Because after those first 4, you may not have another good game until Reynolds. Another tough game, I should say, to a Reynolds.
Well, we opened up with Irwin. I know those guys over there. I worked over there for 3 years. I know they do a good job in preparation. I know they do. I've been a part of it. They help teach me how to do it. T.C. Robertson's going to be very good.
We heard that in our last interview as well.
They Coach Dinwiddie, he probably did the right thing. He brought them all up as sophomores, and they took their lumps. And they were not very good as sophomores. And then this past year as juniors, they got a whole heck of a lot better. And now they're all about to be seniors. And so – I think he built it the right way with doing that. You just got to keep your sophomores, alive, and he did. Now they're bigger, stronger, faster, and they're going to be playing, their third year of varsity football. Reynolds is still Reynolds, just like Asheville's still Asheville. I tell you, the team has given us some trouble, game planning wise, and just throwing stuff at us that we just out of nowhere. Completely different defense, different offense, and then you see in the film is Coach Sexton over at Inca. He does a good job, and honestly, we follow them in a lot of our conference games, and we actually, because coaches are all thieves, we steal what we like, and if you think any coach invented something, you're wrong. I guess someone had to, but it ain't anybody up here, or it ain't me. But I use a lot of what Coach Sexton does in his games, because he gives people some really good formations and some good motions and stuff that, I sit there and go behind, like going behind him so I can see it. But he does a good job game planning there. He's got a lot of seniors this year. He does. He's got a lot of seniors, and they play hard for him. And McDowell, we talked a little bit about McDowell before we got on air. I think McDowell has some good-looking kids. They had a tight end last year that was as good-looking as any kid in the conference. They always have good-looking linebackers, good-looking tight ends, good-looking linemen. So I think our conference is definitely trending up.
I think that's good for everybody.
You were talking about Anka, and a couple of things that I wanted to ask you about. I used to coach the Anka Youth League for many, many, many years, and great talent out of that community would come out of that program and go up, and then we would play Asheville, their youth league, every year. So one thing I was curious about, do you work with your youth league and your youth league team as kids funnel up, or is it more of an autonomous thing and they just get to the next stage and advance to the middle school and then the high school, or what's that look like?
Well, see, that's a kind of a tough question because when I got here, it was COVID, and youth league shut down.
That's true. That's true.
So, and kind of what took its place is we saw it with basketball, we've seen it with baseball, and now we're seeing it with football. It's just kind of like the AAU travel league for football.
That's right.
But we, Bolanos, Coach Bolanos has taken over down at the youth league. We communicate a lot back and forth. I want those kids to want nothing more than to be an Asheville Cougar and play in Memorial Stadium under the Friday Night Lights. That's what I want them to dream about, And so I've gone up there to Memorial to watch. They're doing a little 7-on-7 league right now, which I think is great for the kids on Saturday mornings. They go out there, and work on. I mean, this game is a game that has to be played in space. It is. It's a land war, And so those kids at an early age learning how to play in space and use leverage and stuff like that, I think is valuable. So I enjoy going out there, watching them. I try to stay hidden for a lot of it, but a few times I go up and talk to some parents, stuff like that, and I'm in charge of doing the 6th grade Youth Shrine Bowl this year, and so trying to look and see, find a kid or two from up here that we can use for that to go against South Carolina with, but that's one thing that we're trying to get back to. Is building that youth league program up. And like I said, they're doing great. We had their banquet here last year in the cafeteria. Biggest thing we want them to do is I want to be an Asheville Cougar, and I want to stay an Asheville Cougar for life.
Now, then back to that Anka point, too, that you were talking about with Coach Sexton. I've noticed, too, the same thing you did. I mean, it was almost like they've taken that program in a different direction than it had historically been going. And seeing some success, and it's kind of interesting to see how that play out. I don't know much about Coach Sexton. I'm fairly new to the area and stuff, but when he took over that job, he's fairly known around these parts as a good coach, right?
He's very well known. I mean, he was the guy that hired me at Irwin, and when I was at rock bottom at Chase after 2 or 3 games where I was like, oh man, I will never be allowed to be a head coach again. He was the one I called, and I got him on my huddle, and I said, I need help. Help me. And he did. He dropped everything he was doing at the time and, would watch some of our film and help me with some stuff that I wasn't seeing at the time.
So you talked about some of your players. Who are some of your standout players you got coming back this year?
So, I mean, we can look on the defense side of the ball first, because Asheville High, what we're going to do is we're going to look on the defense side of the ball. You got Noah Shaw, who's going to be a 4-year starter for us. I could tell when we do our little 8th grade signing day, and I try to get with the 8th graders in middle school as much as I can. We bring them up and we lift them on Saturday mornings in the off season. And is it for lifting? Sure, but it's more for relationship building. It's more for me getting to know them getting to know me, and so. Noah from an early age, you can tell he's a little different. He actually just got back from his official visit from Rutgers, which I thought was a great opportunity. He went to New York City for the first time, and I was like, man, that whole thing's neat. He's going down to visit Clemson on Thursday and then going on his Duke official visit on Friday. So he's got a lot of good opportunities. He's a very, very good athlete, and he trusted us. His dad trusts us, Randy. Randy played at Western Carolina under Brent Pry, who's now at Virginia Tech. And Randy's a football guy, and he gets it. He's the perfect football parent because he's not calling me saying, why is my kid not getting offered by Alabama, or anything like that. And he's sitting there, and when I told him, I was like, we're going after his freshman year, Noah was playing wide receiver and DB. And then we figured that the best thing for us to do at Asheville was to platoon, have offense and defense. That's what allows us to practice in 90 minutes, honestly. And so what allows us to get a lot better, a lot faster, in my belief, But, we moved Noah from wide receiver DB to outside linebacker. He had never played linebacker. really before. And this past year he played outside linebacker, safety, nickel, and inside linebacker. And what it's shown a lot of college coaches is, man, I'm getting an athlete that can do anything. I'm getting an athlete that's a safety build right now at 197 pounds, but could easily add 30 pounds to his frame and be a wheel backer. He can be a nickel and carry number 3 down the pipe. And he's a great player with a lot of versatility. We got our linebackers are back with Zyreek Smith, Ben Bevins, and Javay Smith. And then we got Eddie Pretrick, who's a returner for us on the defensive line. And then we got a kid that moved in from Washington all the way across the nation. And you get calls from the main office sometimes like, hey, there's a kid that just enrolled here. You may want to see him. I'm like, okay. And a lot of times you go up there and you're like, all right, thank you. But you walk in there and you sit there the whole time as you see him through the glass. You're like, please be the kid that's transferring in. Please be the kid that's transferring in. And not the kid's dad, and he definitely passes the look test when he walks in, and he's in a completely different system. But it's not easy to go across the nation. But I think one thing he's done is he's gotten in, with a really good group. He's been in our football weight training class, and he's one that I think App State already offered him. He may be the first kid and only kid that ever gets offered by Montana. From Asheville. Montana called me today. Like, yeah, we're going to offer him. So I was like, man, I don't know if Asheville kid's ever been offered by the University of Montana. And I told Brent, because when I was at App State working as a student assistant, we went out there and played Montana in maybe 09 or 2010, and it was the best college football environment I've ever been a part of. And I've been, at LSU, I've been to Florida, I've been to all the big ones, and I've never been a part of an environment like the one out of Montana, where we're up in the box and it is shaking. It is literally shaking. And so I told them, man, that's an awesome place to think about, going and playing. So that's the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, we're young up front. I got the twins back on the offensive line, Katzen and Prince and Johnny. And then we got Kaheem Plummer and Nick Williams at running back. And that they're a true two-headed monster. They are. Both of them do things a little bit differently. It's kind of thunder lightning type situation. You got Meek Slidell, who was forced into quarterback duties as a freshman. And I say that, but he'd been our ball boy since 7th grade. So he knew what to do, and he handled it really, really well. Jeremiah Jones at receiver, tight end, gives us a ton of flexibility of what we can do. At the WNC Football Coach Association combine we had the other day, he ran the fastest 40 out there at a 4.56, and he's our tight end. And I think that gives a lot of flexibility. It's a tight end that runs like a receiver. He's 197, 200 pounds, and runs 4.56. So he gives a lot of flexibility. Then we got a big receiver in Trey Cotton, who's 6'4", who kind of spot played early. Then we realized that out of 6 catches, he had 4 touchdowns last year. And, we're like, hey, man, we should probably start throwing the ball to Trey a little bit more. So we got that. And we got a lot of young kids that are stepping up. Kareem Williams is a 6'4" safety that a lot of schools are coming by being like, what is that kid? And he's a 2025. He's a kid that started turning a lot of heads. So we're young in a lot of places, but we do have some experience.
So what's the hardest part of your job?
What's the easiest part? You tell me that, and I'll figure it out. And honestly, I can make a list for you. I'd say the hardest part of my job is as I wake up with about 20 things that I know I need to get done today. And by about 10 o'clock, I have accomplished none of those because 10 more have popped up that seemingly are more important than the 20 that I had started out with. The hardest part of my job is the time. As you can probably tell talking to me, I ain't the brightest bulb. No, I ain't super smart. I don't claim to be. But one thing I was taught from early age is that everybody gets 24 hours. And that's the great equalizer. And my grandfather, both my grandfathers, my dad, they pressed upon me that they'll spend their 24 better than you'll spend your 24. And so that's kind of what has stuck with me. Now, it comes at a price, and it's tough with having a young family and stuff like that. You better have, I tell all my young coaches, man, one of my, Coach Cardillo just, proposed he's going to get married. Coach Cheek got married, a few months ago. If you find a lady who was dumb enough to marry a coach, you better pull the trigger on it. So that's a big part, but that's definitely the hardest part of the job.
So what does the Reynolds Asheville game look like this year?
Who knows? Who knows?
You know what they got over there.
I know what they got, and they're good. I know what they got, and they're good. But when you get to a rivalry game, it doesn't matter.
Do you think it's too early to guarantee another conference championship?
No, I think it's way too early to guarantee anything. But
Lewis is trying to get the coach in trouble.
That's right.
That's fine. That's what it's for, right? You got to try to prod a little bit and see if somebody can say something they probably shouldn't. That'd be used bulletin board material. No, it's any rivalry game where it doesn't matter because the feel of the game is so different. It's so hard for me to explain to people that don't know what the week of practice is like. At least our first 2 years here. Now, this past year, I warned them after Monday, and I was like, guys, they're good. If we practice like this again, we're going to get our heads beat in. I warned them about it on Tuesday. Warned them about it on Wednesday. It didn't have the same feel that it had the first 2 years. It really didn't, and which, transpired into the game, honestly. And honestly, at halftime in the game and even at the end of the game, we had some great seniors and even some underclassmen step up and say, this is our fault. I mean, we knew this. Coach warned us about this all week. All of our coaches, we talked about it. They all warned us that this was going to happen, and we didn't believe them, and it happened. Which at the end of the day, I think was vital for our program. I think we were in a kind of a downward spiral there for a little bit. I do. One thing that we don't ever want to do is let winning be the most important thing. Winning is not the product that we're after, and I know that sounds crazy. I know it sounds like coach speak and all that stuff, and I get that. But everything we do is winning is the byproduct of doing things right. And can you win and not do things right? Sure, you can. Can you sustain it? No way. And I think we had gotten to a situation where we were not doing things right, but still winning. So we thought we could not do things right. And I think that, the Reynolds game last year helped bring us back to center point. It really did. I think it was big for our program. You don't ever like losing like that, but was it important for our program? It was, which I know no fans want to hear. But as a coach, I think it was big for us. I think it was important for us. I think it was important for our kids because at the end of the day, it's high school football. It's great. I love it. I dedicate, my career to it. I put my career in the hands of 15 to 18-year-olds. Whether that's smart or dumb, I don't know, but I enjoy doing it. But the whole point of the reason I do it is to see who they end up being at 25, who they end up being at 30. And that's, doing things right, that carries on after high school. You're doing things right. If you do things right, things will work out. You don't do things right, do things still work out? Sure. Is it sustainable? No. And so, and some of those seniors and even some of our underclassmen, if they got that life lesson out of that game, then game well spent.
So, on your schedule, I noticed you have Providence Day scheduled this year, a private school out of Charlotte. Would you consider playing a private school in Asheville, or is it off limits because they're in Buncombe County?
I don't know. That's a good question. Is it something that we've talked about? Sure.
Now we will mention. I know Khalil Conley went to Christ School. I know that probably that stings. I'm sure.
I mean, it does strictly for the point of I don't get to be around the kid. I really like Khalil. Khalil's a great kid, and honestly, Khalil. He probably showed up over here once a week, in the off-season stuff. And, he's still got good relationships with all the coaches, all the kids. He comes to basketball games and stuff. It's unfortunate that, some college coaches couldn't watch what he was doing at quarterback and say, man, that kid's a really good athlete. I bet that kid could be a really good corner, And honestly, it was kind of a tough timing situation because college coach, when he was in his junior year, college coaches were asking me, is he a 23 or 24? I'm like, I think he's a 23, well, I'm hearing he's a 24. And so that kind of muddied the water a little bit for his recruitment. Now, at the same time, I still think he had two great opportunities while he was here. William & Mary's a great offer. And I told him, Army, West Point, and this is just my personal opinion, if my son ends up, I got a boy, he's 4, Charlie, he can't run out of a shadow, so it'll be a great pulling guard. I I ain't gonna be one of those coaches that makes him play quarterback. He'll be a heck of a guard. I can't wait for it. But if Alabama offers him and Army West Point offers him, he's going to West Point because your life's different. You graduate from West Point, your life's different. Can you still play football there? Sure, but football's going to for everybody at some point. Football's a vehicle. You get us from one place to the next. It doesn't have to be to college, and that's one thing I think we kind of get lost on a little bit right now. It's kind of amplified by social media and everything else. Is that kids want more than anything. This has not changed, but kids want attention. Now where they get it from, that's changed. But kids want attention. Attention now is in the form of likes and retweets. I'm going on this official visit, or I just got this offer, blessed to receive my 95th Division I offer. At the end of the day, you're only gonna pick one. One of the best kids I ever had, best players I ever had. His name's Tariq Cohen. It was my first job out of college at Bunn High School. He was about 5'5", if that. He didn't come to anything over the summer. He was in a real bad home situation. Mom was doing her best to try to support a bunch of kids. And Tariq was an unbelievable kid, and he still is. And we played him at like linebacker, and he's 5'5", 150 pounds. We played him as a little bit of safety. Didn't play him at running back at all. And I think week 4 he catches a pick and takes it back to the house. And as he's taking it back, I'm 22 years old. I don't know anything. I'm up in the box, and I'm like, hey, Tariq's pretty good, guys. We should probably give him the ball. And he gets one offer, out of high school to A&T, and then he gets drafted by the Bears, but a lot of people don't understand is he is the exception to the rule. That does not mean every 5'5" kid, is going to go play college football, but he was one that stayed where his feet were. He loved playing high school football, and the opportunity came and he ran with it.
You really hit on something that I've noticed with this whole mentality of trying to get to this next level of football. And I'm a little older than you, but in the days, a lot older. We made a VHS tape and sent it off to a few schools. And if you got picked up at all by anybody for any reason to play at any level, it was amazing. It was an awesome thing, and that's changed. You're right about that. And we went over the percentages of the people that would actually make it to the pro level, or even just the Division I high school football level, is so fractional that if you can have, to your point, it's a vehicle is what it is. If you can go play college football, if that's your aspiration, and get any experience or any value, whether it's in the form of a partial or a full scholarship at any level, that's fantastic. That's absolutely amazing. It should be celebrated.
Well, it should be. And one thing that you ask yourself at the start is, do you love football? Do you love playing football? And if you do, it's not golf, You can play golf until you're 80, 85, 90. There's 90-year-olds out there playing golf. You have a very short time span to play this game that you love. And so we tell our kids all the time, the best players in the world, like the ones that if they walk through that door right now, they look like they're building a lab. The best players in the world are done at 25. There's a few, but if you stay 4 years in the league, man, you're one of the best to ever do it. And they're done at 25, and then what, man? Yes. Your life's just starting, what are you going to do now? And so that's one thing we try to talk to our kids about, religiously and nonstop here is, we use football. We don't let football use us, and if you love it, do it, but I also don't want kids to get in a situation where they want to be able to put out that they are going to go play college football so bad that they're willing to go $60,000 in debt to a D3 school, who's just taking a kid to take a kid. Versus let's not do that. Let's enter the workforce. We had the fire department come talk to our kids about entering fire school. Fire school is a great deal. They work 10 days. Now it's 24-hour shifts. We work 10 days out of the month. And their starting salary is like $46,000. You start that at 18 versus going $60,000 in debt year 1 in college, where you may stay a year, you may stay 2, you may stay 3, you may stay all 4. But percentages say you're going to stay 1 or 2, and then you're going to be done because you're going to realize that football's not a place for, a 5'7", defensive end. It's tough, so we try to guide our kids as best we can. And we were able to have 9 in this last class sign. to go play college football, which I think is huge. And I think that's a huge part of my job is to give them opportunities. It's not to help, it's not to create a, college football player per se, but it's to create opportunities, and if a kid wants to go play college football and we can make it make fiscal sense, then we're going to make it happen, and of those kids, because you'll see kids and where it gets skewed a lot is there's kids that, not like schools off the mountain, like down in Charlotte and stuff, and they'll say, I'm, committing to Furman. And then you'll talk to the coach, like, hey, that kid's going to Furman. He's like, yeah, he's got a walk-on spot, but he's about to go in $60,000, $70,000 worth of debt. And our 9 kids that are signing, we were able, those kids and their families, coaches, counselors, everybody working together, are able to get, over $250,000 in scholarship money for 9 kids. That's what it's about.
That's awesome.
That's impressive.
I mean, and that's what we're trying to do, create generational wealth for these kids, and that's where I see it. But that's the byproduct. That's not just what we're after. We're after doing things right. Doing things right in the classroom, doing things right in the weight room, doing things right on the practice field. You do all those things right, then you get the other stuff. But I think it gets skewed a little bit right now because people are chasing that. And when they chase that, they take shortcuts in everything else that they're doing. And which is why a lot of kids end up sad, which is why a lot of kids end up, upset at the end of the recruiting process because they didn't keep the main thing the main thing.
So you mentioned the social media aspect of this, and one thing I'm learning about through my kids, and it wasn't around when any of us were in school, is the social media aspect. And a lot of these kids, they connect with other teams, and I've seen it a lot in wrestling this year, where these guys will jaw back and forth. And then by the time we get to that match, it's like lights out, somebody's going to get hurt here. You know what I'm saying? Something that didn't exist when we were there at all.
Computers didn't even exist when Pat was in school.
Correct.
Hey, we had the Apple IIe.
I mean, we had to meet like at Ingles parking lot or something and talk about how we're going to beat your butt this next week when coming up in the game. How do you handle that social media aspect where a game doesn't get bigger than what it is?
Well, one thing we tell our kids at the beginning when they start school here, is if you have any aspirations of playing college football, then your social media, is your resume. And that's how you need to treat it, because that's where college coaches are going to contact you. That's where they're going to look. That's where they find out who you are. If you're out there, doing some foolish things like that, then that's not going to bode well for your future. This is a professional thing that you're running right here. Your Twitter is you sending out job resumes. That's what it is. And that's how you got to treat it. And honestly, have we had stuff like that happen? I'm sure. I may be numb to it or haven't seen it, or they haven't brought it to my attention. I'm sure it's happened. It'd be a foolish thing that it hasn't. But, the biggest thing is not putting yourself in a bad situation that you can't get out of with that stuff, and not taking away opportunities because you made an impulsive decision. Because one thing that I think a lot of coaches, may believe about their teams, one thing I believed about my team, here, when I got here at Asheville, I thought there was a lot of immaturity, and I was wrong. It's not immaturity, it's impulsive. They're not immature. A lot of these kids have been raising themselves and their brothers and sisters since they were 5 years old. They ain't immature. All right, but they're impulsive. They do what they feel in the moment, but impulsive behaviors, can put you in a lot of bad situations. So that's one thing we talk about a lot here. And that impulsive behavior, and everyone's a hero behind a keyboard, but an impulsive behavior, is to say something right now. But that's why, we press upon the critical thinking skills and stuff like that as far as, is this going to matter in 10 minutes? Is it going to matter in an hour? Is it going to matter in a year? In which way is it going to matter? Is it going to keep you from getting an opportunity to go do something that you love to do and get paid to do it? Because if you get a college scholarship, you're getting paid. So biggest thing that we're trying to do here is not a maturity, and that's one thing that I've learned in the past year that I would have stood and preached on, that we have lack of maturity. That's wrong. These kids do things that I would never ask to do as a kid growing up, but we do have a lot of kids that have a lot of impulsive behaviors, and it's trying to control those impulsive behaviors. You got to control them on the field the same way. It's a violent game for violent men. There's rules, And my mom, she never understands the unsportsmanlike conduct type stuff. She's like, it's just a fight anyways. What does it matter if they punch somebody after play? But
I like your mom's thinking.
Absolutely,
that's how she is. But that's one thing that I've learned, in the last year, and one thing that I think that we've tried to kind of veer in how we're teaching our kids, and it's more about how do you control your impulsive actions. And I think stuff like you talked about with the social media stuff, it falls right in line with that.
So how important is social media when it comes to recruiting and doing those sorts of things?
Is it important? Sure. Is it? Do we probably put more value on it than how much it really is important? You know what's really important is if you're 6'4", 260 pounds. I mean, honestly, that's what's really important.
It's the measurables.
Yes, it is. I mean, I can bring, a college coach me in here, and I can bring a kid that's in science class that does not play football at all. And if he is 6'8", 320, they're going to want the kid's information. I mean, that just is what it is. They won't. But and I get frustrated with this sometimes because I know some really, really good 5'8" ball players that are really, really good football players. But it's no different, than what we do as coaches when we walk around the halls. I don't always ask the 5 foot tall kid, if he wants to play football, but I ask every 6'3" kid if he wants to come out and play. So are we any different in doing it? No. So is social media important? Sure. And do we use it here at Asheville? Yeah, we do.
You guys are pretty. You use it a lot, it seems.
We do. I never want a kid to miss out on an opportunity because I didn't do my job. So we Coach Cardillo, who's our recruiting coordinator, he makes a very comprehensive recruiting catalog that gives college coaches everything they could ever want or need about a kid. It has all their information, and we send it out electronically to over 250 schools. And then every coach that comes by, a lot of them, like, coach, already got digital copy in it, but we always hand, the paper copy, and it helps them when they go watch the kids lift in the weight room. All right, who's that kid? Oh, there he is, and then it has their GPA, has their unweighted, has their core. That's one thing I don't think kids understand as much either is how we tell them all the time, but it just doesn't seem to stick, how important the GPA is, and it's not, it's your core. If you're thinking about playing college sports, if that's what you're thinking about. Now, if you're trying to go to Yale to be a student, do you need to take AP classes? Yes, you do. If you're trying to go play, Division I college football and you make a D in an AP class, that hurts you bad. It'd be better to make an A in a standard class than make a D in an AP class. That's what a lot of kids don't understand, is that core is unweighted. And so I think with the recruiting catalog and everything it has in it, and we press it out, and we thank coaches for coming by, and we try to keep good relationships with them, and we take our kids to different places over the summer. We're going to Chapel Hill. We're actually we're going to go up next Tuesday when we get out of school. We're going to take about 20 of them up there. We're going to go to a Durham Bulls game on Tuesday night, stay in a hotel. Because last year we went up there and we left the school at 4 a.m., which was hard on everybody, but it was the hardest on me because everyone was asleep on the bus for the first 3 hours while I was just trucking along. Yeah.
So you're the bus driver as well?
I do some of the bus driving duties. The coaches help me out, but for that one I drove it, but we're going to go up the night before. We'll go watch the Durham Bulls game, stay in a hotel, give them some life experience, go do things they may not get a chance to do otherwise. And go over to Chapel Hill Wednesday morning, have some good competition. I've already had 3 different coaches, colleges besides Carolina, reach out, and say, we're going to be there. Can we get a list of your prospects that'll be there? And so I think that's critical as far as, trying to get our kids some exposure. And then later on in the summer, we're going to Gardner-Webb for a 3-day team camp. And then we're going to Winston-Salem State, and that's one thing that the HBCUs don't really understand about Asheville High School is that we're, on the football team, we're 90% minority. And they kind of, group mountains as mountains, and we've tried to really press forward with the HBCUs and build good relationships with them, and try to help our kids get different opportunities.
You mentioned the mountains, and something else I was going to ask you. You also brought up earlier the WNC Combine. That's where I saw you out there the other day. That's the first time I've ever been a part of that, but that was a highly talented group of kids. And your list of players that you said that you got signed last year was impressive. Coach Walker at Christ School had some. Coach Laws was talking about his crew that got offers last year too. Yet I keep hearing, schools not necessarily wanting to recruit the Western North Carolina area from people in the community. And I'm fairly new to the area, but based on what the 3 of you have said in the podcasts, that doesn't seem to ring true. And then there was some great talent at that combine.
There was, but that's why we did the combine, because I can tell you I've been on the mountain, I've been off the mountain. The one thing about being on the mountain is that it's harder for colleges to drive to different schools to see kids. We were talking a little bit before we got on air about, Robbinsville, and I'll never go to Robbinsville again. I don't care if they say there's $1 million in Robbinsville. You can keep it. I ain't going down there again. And Coach Walsh does an unbelievable job. And the Cutler Adams kid down there, he's the kid I thought about. Because here's the deal. We get great foot traffic here at Asheville. We do. And I was able to be down at Crest when we had 2 kids on our defense that, played at Clemson, and Justin Foster and Landon Sanders, and they had Dabo Sweeney sitting in the office right there talking to them. And that was cool. It was a great experience. And, but the kids in kind of these outlying communities get that? No, they don't. I was very excited about the kid from Andrews, the offensive lineman, that's been able to pull, some offers lately, because you don't see it happen a lot for those kids. And I know they're good. And that kid was able to show that combine because I was curious. I wanted to see him. The kid's real, real good. That kid's really, really good. He's not just a big kid from Andrews that can block down on the run. The kid's athletic. The kid runs like a linebacker. He's special. You can tell he's a little different. But that's the whole reason why we did that combine, is to bring the best 24s in Western North Carolina and put them all on one field. And one thing I thought was very, very special to me was all of Western Carolina staff was out there, including their head coach. I thought that was great for what we're trying to do, which is show everybody how good Western North Carolina football is. In Charlotte, you can go hit 12 schools in an hour. You can. In Western North Carolina, because coaches come by all the time and be like, all right, I'm about to drive down to Smoky Mountain, And I was like, and he's like, well, then I'm going to come back here. I'm like, well, don't do that. If you're going to Murphy, that's a trip. No, you're making a trip there. Don't sit there and say, I'm going to go down to Smoky Mountain and then pop back up, and go over to Reynolds. You need to go to Reynolds now and then finish down to Smoky Mountain. And it's just everything's so spread out. Mitchell, they played for a state championship 2 years ago, and you talked to Coach Pittman, and they're good. They're good. And he said, they've had 2 college coaches come through there in 2 years. And that's not fair to those kids, So that's one reason why we did the Western North Carolina Combine, was take all those kids, put them on one field to make it easy for college coaches. And we had 9 different colleges there, to watch kids and evaluate them. And I thought that was a very special event. And it's something I hope we can continue on in the future.
So what's next for you, Coach Radford? What's next for Asheville High? What's going on?
Every group's different, so are you trying to build upon itself? Yeah. Are you trying to, we'll talk about getting over the hump, are you trying to get over the hump? Yeah, we are. But every group is so different, so unique, that it's really, you look back at the grand scheme at the very end of it. At this point, man, we're focused on this group of kids that we have right now. And right now, we have a lot of youth. We do. We have a lot of young kids that are going to have to play a lot of important positions. I had my strength guy in here earlier, and we're programming the summer as far as what we want to do, how we want to do it, going through rep schemes, percentages, all that stuff. So what's next for us here, is taking the next step. But every year it is that team's, goal, strive to be the best version of themselves, whatever that may be. And I think some people look at that in different ways. There's some 12-win teams that probably didn't accomplish what they should have accomplished, and there's some 4-win teams that probably should have been 1-win teams that overplayed, overaccomplished. And so our goal every year is to be one of those teams that gets more out than what people think we should get out. Play over our head a little bit. And that comes with a lot of time and a lot of work. And we run this like a college program. That's our goal. I learned a lot when I started my career at Appalachian State, and I worked under Sean Elliott, who's head coach at Georgia State now. And he gave me a tutoring now, and it was not easy. And I can take a cussing in a heartbeat. I've learned that. But he was pivotal, vital for my success. Lance Taylor came in right behind him. I moved from O-line to wide receivers, and he's now, he was the running backs coach up at he was the wide receiver coach for the Carolina Panthers, running backs coach at Notre Dame, and now he's the OC, or now he's the head coach at Western Michigan. So I was able to learn under some great guys, and so we try to model everything we do off the college program. So we watch a ton of film. We have chalk sessions. We lift. Their days are long. They're long. Before we start school, I bring them in at 2:45. Offense, lift, defense, watch film for 40 minutes. Then we switch, and then we practice. We don't just bring them in at 3 and then roll on practice field at 3:30 and go. And then after practice, we have the film. We break it down on huddle. We send it out. We send out notes, and so the kids know it's important. They know it's valued. they know what's expected of them, and then hopefully colleges know when they get a kid from Asheville that he's ready to roll.
Pat has a question that he forgot to ask at the beginning.
Every time I forget to ask this question, but it is tradition so far with everybody that we've had on to find out what was the pivotal and defining music album of your high school career.
Man, I don't know. That's a great question.
He took you way back.
He did, and it kind of comes back full circle because it was the Snowman album by Jeezy. I mean, that's what it was. That's what we listened to in the weight room on repeat on the CDs back in the day, you know. And so that's what it was. That's what it was for me.
Pat, do either of you know who that is?
I have no idea who that is.
Pat's defining album was an actual record.
It was Michael Jackson's Thriller.
My parents listened to him too.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome.
I tell you what, I'll be honest with you. I'm really impressed with what you got going on here.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate it, guys. I do.
We really do appreciate you coming on. I do need to make mention, as most of you know by now, T.C. Robertson and West Henderson both won the state championship.
In baseball.
Yeah, in baseball. That was awesome.
So if you guys remember back to episode 3, Carson did say T.C. Robertson would win the state championship.
I agree. Yep.
He was correct. We got to thank a few folks. We got to thank the Bandettes for letting us use their intro music. Man, such a great song. They got a new album coming out. Lewis, have you?
Yeah, it's this month coming out. Right?
Are you ready?
I'm ready for it. They have some good music.
They do.
Guys, if you want to contact us, email us, behindthebeardwnc@gmail.com. Get on our Facebook, Instagram. We're there. Check us out. Next episode, we're not sure exactly. We're still trying to line up Coach Gibson from Owen. Hopefully that'll be our next podcast. Pat, what you got?
Well, when I was out at the WNC Combine, I did introduce myself to the coach of T.C. Robertson, and he seemed potentially agreeable to do it too. So we'll see if we can follow up with him and
did he listen to the podcast?
I don't know that he's even heard of us, gentlemen. I don't think we don't have that kind of street cred yet.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Lewis, anything?
I'm so looking forward to summer workouts starting, football getting going. I'm ready.
Amen.
Just one more week of school and we're there.
Well, y'all are still in school?
Yeah.
Okay. Coach Radford, anything we didn't ask you you'd like to talk about?
I don't know. I think we pretty much hit everything. Unless you guys got any other questions, I appreciate you guys taking the time and sitting in the office. It's actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, we appreciate you being on as well.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks for coming on. We're very grateful, and thanks for listening to another iteration of Behind the Beard WNC. Until next time, watch for the social media pages that we have up for the next episode and who that might be, or if it's just the three of us getting on and bantering. So thanks again to Coach and Lewis and Mike Anderson. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks.
Thank you.